I give a fuck? Why do I give a fuck? Why do I try so hard? Why do I care so much?
Welcome to Why Do I Give a Fuck? A cross-cultural conversation between myself, Deanne Tate,
and Johanna Thompson. In these times of great struggle and possible shift, we ask ourselves,
why do we give a fuck about any of it? How does the lens we see the world through impact what we see?
And what do we do about it?
So welcome to the second part of this conversation about American exceptionalism and some of the things that are going on right now that speaks to America turning to this, or the United States, turning into a land that people from the United States are not familiar with. And we're even talking about something as basic as traveling. So I know that you're about to travel soon, and some of the things that you're in consideration with that we didn't have to consider before, where other countries might have had to consider when they're trying to travel. And now United States citizens are starting to feel the same type of fire from the legislative changes that are occurring out of the Trump administration. So you want to talk about some of those things?
Yeah, so my partner and I are going to be traveling internationally in a few months, and there's a lot of conversation and a lot of things that I'm learning about how to safeguard myself, because I am very outspoken about my disapproval of what the Trump administration is doing. I've been advocating in solidarity, marching with Palestine for 18 months or so. I wear my keffiyeh all the time. I've always got my keffiyeh earrings and all of those. And usually when I travel, I wear that stuff loud and proud because I want to represent, and I want to, get people thinking when they see what I'm wearing. And I wear my t-shirts that say, intriguing and thought-provoking things and all of that. But now I'm learning that I need to undo and not have all of that on me when I travel in June, even to the point of cleaning my phone. So what some people have experienced, it's not I don't think it's happening to everybody in especially when they're coming back through customs back into the US from an international space, is what I'm hearing. I haven't experienced this firsthand myself, so everything is third hand, but people's phones being taken by customs, being entered into by customs, reading texts, looking at social media. And if there is anything on there that is critical of the current administration, or anything that is in support of Palestine, in support of Sudan or Congo, or any of the places that people are advocating for right now, that I, I haven't heard of anyone necessarily being arrested per se, but certainly detained. It takes them a lot longer to get through harassment. So what I'm learning from folks that are in to understanding how to protect yourself in the cyber realm is talking about taking apps off of my phone. First of all, not even taking my phone, getting a burner and not even having your personal phone with you, leaving it at home. But if you do take it, wipe all the apps off of it for social media, wipe any connection to Google Drive that might get them access to any documents that I might have built. Not wearing my keffiyeh, not wearing any outward appearance that would suggest that I was a person who stood in solidarity with Palestine or against the Trump administration. So these are the things that I'm in consideration of. And yes, you're right. Americans, the US citizens are not accustomed to having that kind of restriction placed on us when we leave. And I know you travel quite a bit through international, because you're back and forth from Jamaica. And have you experienced anything like this yet? Has anyone looked at you side eye when you've come through?
So I'm curious to see how things change. I'm doing my dual citizenship, so I'm a citizen of Jamaica now.
Oh, congratulations!
So yeah, man.
Yeah, that's great.
Born true Jamaican. Now I just have to convince people here. Anyway, no, that's not the reality. And all of my U.S. papers are still intact, and I also have global entry and all of this stuff. So I am one of those people that is technologically connected to the United States, and that it's facial recognition in my eyes. So like literally when I'm walking up to places, yes, you still have to pull out your ID, but it turns green very quickly. I just walk through pretty much the customs. Now there was a period as this transition with technology was happening where me filling out the form and the paperwork here in Jamaica didn't, like I did get stopped through customs here in Jamaica, going through the process because there was a disconnect with however the systems talk to each other from US to Jamaica. And I do know that the US and Jamaica are going through whatever type of political struggles, economic struggles, because Jamaica is doing a lot more business with other countries. They've decided that they want to spend more time or accept more resources from who's providing with the resources, right? Now, when we watch Trump administration pull back on US aid and a lot of government programming and funding, right, and then also putting restrictions on corporations or private industry to penalize them in some way if they don't follow along with the legislation, is impacting what funding looks like for building soft power on a global basis. Mm-hmm. And that being the case means that these other small island nations are going to look for other support from larger economies. And China does an exceptionally good job of coming in and making sure, Cuba as well, making sure that there's infrastructure available, and the debt systems are different, right? And the relationships are different also because there are a lot of Chinese Jamaicans here. And then because there's a lot of Chinese Jamaicans here from the history of people being there, then also there's a large Chinese population of like family and friends that are just coming over now. And then most of the products and the resources that are here in bulk, because there is like the island products, but the things that are here in bulk are from China. So you do see a shift in relationship and a shift in value of relationship with larger economic countries. And then when you're also seeing this, you're also seeing like, US citizens don't get it so easy. It took me a little bit longer in the process of having my Jamaican citizenship completed. And I did mine through descendancy. I didn't get married to a Jamaican or anything like that. To get it completed, I had to go through just like a couple of more steps, a little bit more processing time. And they chose how I was going to be a citizen. So I'm a citizen with my maiden name through my descendancy and not through my married divorce name, which is my legal name, because I still have children under their father's name. And so just to keep it easy, I maintain the same. So, but Jamaica wouldn't accept that. And so seeing and having that experience of getting citizenship in a different country and knowing that the US has a very strong policy for who becomes US citizens, and then people who are, as you were telling me, legally able to be in the United States right now, getting kicked out, like students that are in school, not able to have their, student visas, permitting them to remain in schools, or people being removed and disappeared, or people being asked to leave the United States. As a person who's born in the United States, that is horribly shocking to me because it's nothing that we've ever had to think about. Right. And then also knowing that the United States is what we consider a melting pot of people from other countries coming and creating life here to the disadvantage of the indigenous people who always existed on the land. But and it also has become what the culture is over the last 400 years. So it's like we are watching the transformation happen. We're watching limitation on movement. We're watching like who is labeling and deciding who is going to be a part of what country. And I'm thinking about how mostly the narrative out of the Republican Party is to have government removed from your life. And all we're seeing
all government, less government,
heavily engaged in your life and your individual decision making. So I don't know if people are paying attention to that, but that was like, big government was never what the Republican Party pushed. It was like small government and individualism, and your citizenship is the thing that matters and holds you, and that is the social contract that you have in relationship with your government, is that they leave you alone and let you be individuals. Right. And what we're seeing with the Trump administration and this desire to rebuild a white nation is that if you're not a part of this hierarchical structure of white maleness, then you are a target and or at risk of having some major impact in your life. And we're now even talking about being able to be a student going into school, traveling back and forth if you want to go and experience a different country, a different way of life, a different thought process, a different food, a different culture. And that's just disappointing. It's disappointing. It's annoying. It's what other adjectives could I come up with to explain that is ridiculous? It's just getting ridiculous. Well, we were also going to talk about again, like what makes a country exceptional. You know, like we didn't get to. We talked about the things that make the United States not exceptional at this point in time, but like some things that actually would make the country or any country be exceptional.
Yeah, you asked the question in the last episode about how do other countries, other larger countries that are maybe on a similar scale of the United States, do they think of themselves as exceptional? Do they have that term and that phrasing? And, I don't know. I would be really curious for any of our listeners or viewers that might live in some of those other countries to, put in the comments or to reach out, because I would really, I don't know if that's a uniquely messed up United States thing that we think we just think we're all that, we just think our shit don't stink. And
like I said, Jamaicans love Jamaica and they think Jamaica is a great island nation.
yeah.
And, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
That people, like I said, the United States has spent so much time being a superpower and a model of capitalism. So like if your goal is to model capitalism and consumerism,
Right.
then
Yeah.
the United States is exactly that. And if
Yeah.
that is what your standard of exceptionalism is, then yay, okay. But if you're actually talking about taking care of people, making sure people have resources, welcoming other folks into your community in a healthy way, telling the honesty about the history of your existence as a country, how it was created, acknowledging the harm in creating that country, making sure that the people who are currently there have food, shelter,
Right.
and care to keep themselves, alive, then that would make you an exceptional country and or nation or culture of people.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the resources to do all of that, at least have systems and structures in place that would allow that type to happen within the capacity of what you do have.
Right.
And to have so much resource, to have so much privilege, to have so much consumerism in the United States, and there still be this large, huge economic gap. We ain't doing it right. We ain't doing it right, and it's not exceptional, and it's not the exceptional nation that we want and hope that it would be.
Right.
So,
Right.
Yeah, man. So these are some of the things that I'm thinking about. Let's see who does a good job in what. Like we can give some exceptionalism to. So when you're talking about one love culture, you're talking about welcome. You're talking about out of many one people, which is the motto of Jamaica. I'm gonna give Jamaica some kudos for that level of exceptionalism there.
Well, one of the measures, not sorry to interrupt you, but one of the measures that we've talked about before is the Global Peace Index that just got released a couple of weeks ago. And I was looking up while you were speaking, and this could be a measure of whether or not a country is exceptional, right? Is how peaceful does their population feel they are? And we've talked about what does peace really mean and what does it look like, and the fact that probably peace, well, not probably, I think it's safe to say that peace looks different for different people. What are the measures? But I just looked it up real quick in the United States on the Global Peace Index. Out of 163 countries that they measured, we were.
Hold on, let me guess. Let's play a game.
Okay.
So out of 163 countries, can you look up the criteria for how they're determining what peace is?
Yes, I'm on the Visions of Humanity Global Peace Index.
All right, cool.
Website. Let's see. It says here, this report presents the most comprehensive data-driven analysis to date on trends in peace, its economic value, and how to develop peaceful societies. and measures the state of peace across three domains. So I guess these are the three kind of
This is
buckets.
what I want to know. Yeah.
Level of societal safety and security,
Okay.
the extent of ongoing domestic and international conflict,
Okay.
and the degree of militarization.
Well, all
So
right.
the three.
So you think it's a high degree, like having a high level of militarization, or a low level of militarization?
I would imagine that low level of militarization gets you a higher score on the peace index.
Okay. All right.
So that's
That's what we're hoping.
yeah.
I don't know if like having a strong military means that that's how you keep the peace, by having a strong military to protect you. You see?
Yes, but I wonder if well, I guess I wonder what their definition of militarization is. How much do we use our military, or how much military do we have? I don't know. I don't
Right.
know what that definition is, right?
At least we have a curiosity about it that we're
Right.
putting out there for people to check on. That's like the work that you can do, the work that we can do
Yeah.
ourselves. But it's also two different perspectives. I just want to also highlight that, because
Right.
you
Right.
had one perspective, and I'm like, militarization, in the communities that I'm in, the more militarized things are, the excuse for the militarization is that there is more
Right.
peace when you have, well, there's more peace when you have a larger,
But when you have a deeper military,
yes,
right,
law
right,
enforcement, militarization in communities, you're going to have more peace.
Yeah.
And so those are the three things. Let's name them again: militarization,
Let me
level of
get back to that. Let me get back to so level of societal safety and security. That's the
mhm,
first bucket. The extent of ongoing domestic and international conflict,
mhm,
and the degree of militarization.
mhm. All right, cool. And the United States then would have placed, out of 160,
Out of 163, where do you think they fell on that list?
157.
A little bit better than that, but not much. You were close.
145. 145.
A little bit better.
Okay, that's interesting. 130.
132.
132. That was going to be my next guess. So
63.
132. Where's Jamaica fall?
Great question.
Because I know that on this island nation, there's a lot of internal violence, but again, that's poverty and social relationships. So
Right. Jamaica, 91.
91. All right, so not that much higher than the U.S. at 132. Tell me who's at the top of that list.
At the top of the list is Iceland. So
Iceland.
here's the top five. I'll give
All
you
right.
the top five. And to any of our listeners or viewers, they might be living in some of these countries, because we've got what 20 countries now that listen and watch us. So number one is Iceland.
All right,
Number
Iceland.
two is Ireland.
Hmm.
Number three is Austria.
Hmm.
Number four, New Zealand.
Hmm.
And number five, Singapore.
Very interesting that all four of them are, I identify them as European nations,
Mm-hmm.
and then except for Singapore.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as you scroll the list, do you know any countries that are on the continent of Africa? Do you see any?
Great questions. Here's a
Yeah.
country I don't even think I've ever heard of before. Mauritius. Mauritius. I don't know where it is.
And it's an island.
It is
Uh,
an
mhm. Okay. I only know a place when I get to travel to it, which is why traveling is so important to me. Limitations that our government and policies are putting up right now to
yeah.
restrict us from our movements is also to restrict us so that we also have this very nationalist ideology, right? Because nationalism worked very extremely well when you were just in your in group. But
Yeah.
the more that we expand ourselves, the more that we travel, the more that we experience other people, the more that we learn and see our commonalities,
Mm-hmm.
the less that people are able to keep us in this nationalistic ideology. And so
I'm looking at the map of Africa, and I'm seeing there are a couple the countries from the continent that are the most peaceful on the scale are Botswana and Madagascar. Of course, the least peaceful would be, for in terms of the continent of Africa, Republic of Congo, Sudan, Central African Republic, South Sudan, Nigeria, Mali.
I'm surprised for Nigeria. And I know what's going on in Mali, so I'd have to do a check. Those other places, Congo, Sudan, and all of that, yeah, because of that,
That's where the genocides are happening.
it wouldn't make sense because, but we also have to be clear about we're talking about the peace index and the three criteria you listed.
Right.
That can't be the only thing. Well, it can be, but we're talking about what makes something an exceptional nation.
Right.
So our definition, the peace index would be one thing. And then I was offering previously that how a country takes care of its people, not just creating peace or being peaceful on the land, but like how much care and provision does it have for its people that are on this land and anyone that comes to its land.
And they talk about that in this on this index when it talks about the level of societal safety and security. I would imagine that reflects or relates to how well they take care of their people. Because if their society doesn't feel secure, then it's not necessarily. But the three buckets do seem to lean more towards militarization, war, that kind of thing, which I feel like is a limited vision of peace if it's only just based on the absence of, because peace is not just the absence of violence. And then you lean towards, well, what's the definition of violence? Because we've talked about this before, that violence can be a whisper in this country. If I as a white woman whisper that a black person has done me wrong or something, I could get them killed, I could get them arrested, I could get them harmed. And so violence is not just about physical violence or war or militarization. So even this peace index, many would say maybe that it's lacking in how it looks at the global picture of that. So,
and this other component about exceptionalism is very much, I would put it together with this idea of like privilege or, thinking that you're better, supremacy in some type of way.
mm-hmm.
It's a nice way of saying privilege and supremacy, this exceptionalism, because you really are comparing yourself to something else, right, and naming what your standard is to say that you're exceptional.
Right.
And so that can be relative, like.
Well, what's interesting? I just clicked on one of the headers on this website is the U.S. Peace Index. And so I clicked on that and it comes to a map that shows how each state lands. So there's an overall U.S. Peace Index score, and how it breaks it down. And it says the 5 indicators are, this is what they look at for these numbers: homicide, violent crime, incarceration, employees, and small arms. So those are which is all about
militarization and violence and,
right,
and harm and physical harm to people.
Right.
The fabric of the United States culture, when even if you're going and actually looking at peace, you're looking at how much violence and harm is happening in communities.
Right.
And to be a nation that focuses so heavily on violence in the way that we do, that is not something that I would consider exceptional. Whereas you can go and visit other places and see that they're focusing on community,
right,
see that they're focusing on cultural practices that really mean a lot to those nations. When I'm learning Spanish now, and like I'm having to learn how to say I'm gonna pray for you, because that's a cultural thing that folks actually do for each other. You see what I'm saying? So like it's something that I need to learn to be like, to just be able to communicate with people in the way that they communicate with each other. Right. And I'm also thinking about another place that I visited. Oh, when you go and visit any type of a Muslim country, you know what I mean? And you're like watching the clothing to respect the belief system, but then the practices, the rituals and the practices that are like so strong and embedded. You hear for prayers in the morning and prayers at night, and it rings all through the town. And when you go to Europe and everyone for lunchtime and dinner time eats communally outside at their individual tables, but the tables are shared amongst large communities of people. Like, to focus on those cultural practices and to focus on that kind of of social connection,
Mm-hmm.
the things that make you I would love for the value of exceptionalism to be there and
Yeah.
not capitalism, consumerism, and how much violence you can control by being violent.
You hit the nail on the head when you said that the US was all about capitalism and consumerism, and that really resonated with me. I don't know if you saw the light bulb go on over my head, but the concept that that's where this thought process comes from, that this country is so exceptional because we are steeped in capitalism and consumerism. We don't build anything, we don't create anything, but we consume it. And that the community is not there, and that because it baffles me that any of us would spend any time thinking that we were exceptional. But the concepts of that the streets are paved with gold, and that the American idea, here I go. I know I'm using American again, but the American dream, the concept that you could come here and realize the American dream, which is owning a home with a white picket fence and 2.3 kids and the dog and the cars for everybody that drives, and the woman that stays at home and tends the hearth, just all of them. But I mean, some of that stuff is lovely, but it's none of it is reflected in how we do things unless you have the financial stability to create that bubble, but you got to be able to work in the capitalist system to be able to get there. So yeah, shout out to anybody that has anything to do with the Global Peace Index. Let's change that. Let's go in there and let's make those buckets not about war, militarization, and violent crime, and all of those things. Let's make it about community and whether or not we take care of each other, and are the rates of houselessness, people experiencing homelessness, are they low? Or do people have enough to eat? I want to end it with this story because this went viral after the Murphy. I want to tell you one more story after the Murphy town hall that I was at this past Friday. We talked about the last episode.
You just did a quintessentially white folks thing, though.
Oh,
You were
what did I do?
You're like, shout out to the people who with the U.S. Whatever index of peace, but let's try to change it. We can change it. We don't need to wait for them to
Well,
change it.
that's true. That's true. I was just calling on the people to think about it differently. If they're going to put this index together, let's look at something different. But you're right. We can change.
Create
Yeah.
a whole index and put it out and say these are the things that we need to be focusing
This is
on.
the thing. You're right. You're right. You are right.
For people to make it happen. So
You're
anyway,
right. You are right. You are right.
Mhm.
The town hall ended that I was at this past Friday. I went to a town hall that was done by Senator Chris Murphy, who is the senator in my state of Connecticut. And the town hall, we had lines of people that wanted to ask questions, and he was trying to get through them all. We went 30 minutes over, and there was a little girl named Charlotte in one of the lines, and he said, "I'm taking her question last." She was precious. She had to have been middle school age, and she got up and she started to ask a question that seemed like maybe mom kind of came up with that question because she was kind of stumbling and wasn't really being clear about her question. But then she shifted into something that I think mattered to her, which was school lunches. And she said, "I want to make sure that we don't do away with free school lunches because I don't want to see my friends go hungry every day in the lunchroom." And then she said that she didn't want them to feel embarrassed because they had to go to a teacher or one of the cafeteria workers and say that they were hungry and that they needed food. And this was her question to him. And it was a beautiful moment because her empathy was so gorgeous. It was so, and I have to say, I appreciated his answer for whatever, if he was trying to make himself look good, whatever. But he got down, he sat down, he pulled her closer to him. He had a little platform that he was standing on. He sat down on the platform, got down on her level, and he thanked her for her empathy. And he thanked her for getting up and having the courage to ask the question. And that she showed all of these adults, because the place was full of 1,800 people. He said, to all of you, all of these adults in here that are hopefully going to work harder at doing, making the world a better place, because you showed them what empathy looked like. And it was a beautiful moment. And I just wanted to end with that, because empathy is where it's at. And everything that you talked about creating this community of taking care of each other, the foundation of all of that is empathy. So
Absolutely. Now, I do have a question. Did he say he was going to make sure that school lunches stayed available and make sure money is appropriated for it? So all I do empathy, have some empathy, sir.
Yeah.
And make sure that there's money appropriated for free lunches, because don't take away free lunches just because it was the Black Panther Party's idea. Make sure that we can feed the children. If we do nothing else, let's feed our young people. Yeah, man. That's an exceptional nation.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us. Until next time, as you move throughout your day, continue to ask yourself,
Why do I give a
Fuck is produced in collaboration with Johanna and Deanne. Music by Norwegian musician Water. See you next time.